Guess what? It is day 15. Um, Obviously I'm excited, and obviously I am extra excited. I am exuberant and bubbling. It is day 15, which means we are halfway through this. I'm doing this, you're doing this, we're both showing up, we're making changes, we're contemplating what all of these words mean to us, and we're shifting, right? So I want you to take a second as we hit this halfway point to recognize that even if major shifts haven't happened in your life, although that would be awesome. If they have, let me know. I want to celebrate you. We should do that. Tell me. But even if like major life altering changes haven't happened, your mindset is shifting. You and I are both taking these concepts and contemplating them and mulling them over. And when they're on our mind, they're on our subconscious. And I'm a huge believer in like subconscious programming. And so just by committing to this, just by showing up, just by listening to Life According to Misty, just by thinking about these concepts, you are already setting in motion some things that are going to change your life. So, yay you're doing this work. I adore you. I almost said I love you. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I love you. I am so excited that you're here with me. Okay, so now that we got that part, let's dive into continuing our conversation on courage. And today we're going to talk about one of the first three things that I think people need the most courage with, and that's saying no. Being able to have those boundaries and those areas in place and being comfortable enough to know when you're reaching them so that you can say no, whether it's people coming this way or you going this way. We need boundaries in our life. And surprisingly, I couldn't find a book or a quote that quite fit what I want to talk about. So I'm going to try my hardest to share this in my own words in the most understandable form possible. But if I get confusing, let me know below. I can easily re-record this and add an addendum if I have to. But are you ready? So when I think about the concept of saying no, there are obviously some things that come into mind, right? So just being able to say no. And part of that is having boundaries. Part of that is being able to fill up your own cup first. Part of that is putting on your oxygen mask first. And I know that these are all things that you've heard before. You've heard all of this before. You've probably even beat yourself up over it before, like, God, I keep doing this thing where I don't say no, so I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that here. You're not off the hook. You should still be practicing those things. But I want to approach it a little bit differently, because I truly believe that the reason we have such a hard time saying no is because we haven't given ourselves the opportunity to say yes. Genuinely. Especially as women in this world, we've been told our entire lives what to do, what's appropriate, what's respectful, what's expected, what our roles should be. We've been told what we can say yes and no to, right? We haven't just not been able to say no to things. We haven't been able to say yes to things. And a lot of times that's the part. The saying yes is the part that makes saying no easier. You with me? Okay. I'm pretty pumped about this topic, so I might ramble. We haven't been able to say no because we haven't been able to say yes. Think about that for a second. Because if we're saying no, for example, to... what's a good example? Baking cookies for the bake sale, right? Maybe you've been asked to bake cookies for the bake sale. You feel like you're going to be an awful mom if you don't bake the cookies for the bake sale. You feel like you're going to be an awful Support for the teacher. If you don't do this, you feel like it's expected of you. You feel like you're going to let other moms down, like all the guilt, and you don't feel like you can say no. And I genuinely, stick with me here, I genuinely believe part of the reason it's so hard to say no is because you don't have a yes yet, right? So it's taking that exact same example. If I were able to say, you know what, baking cookies would probably be a good idea, but I've already said yes to this thing. Whether this thing is, I've already said yes to a yoga night with my girlfriends, whether I've already said yes to reading a book that I've had on my list for a while, whether I've already said yes to a date with my husband or significant other, whether or not I've already said yes to whatever it is, if we don't already have a yes, it's going to be so much harder to say no. Are you getting this? Genuinely getting this? Are you with me here? So while today's topic for courage is no, right? Getting the ability and really bolstering yourself up so that you can have those boundaries in place, you're comfortable saying no. What I want to do instead, or first, not instead, first, is create a list of things that you want to say yes to. Doesn't that feel so much better? Instead of all of the guilt and the shame and the, I have to take care of other people and I'm going to be a bad mom and a bad wife and a bad everything. It's, what if we just took a second and what do we want to say yes to? Do we want to say yes to more books? Do we want to say yes to more yoga? Do we want to say yes to more nights out dancing? Do we want to say yes to more date nights? Do we want to say yes to baths? Do we want to, like, what do we really genuinely want to say yes? Do we want to say yes to spending an hour working on our business? Like, legitimately, whatever it is that we want to say yes to, that's where I want to start the courage. I want to give you permission to say yes to whatever you want to say yes to, because once you have those yeses in place, it's okay to say no. No, I would like to bake cookies for the bake sale, but I already have something planned. I'm sorry. It's not, no, I don't want to do that. I feel like a guilty person because I have nothing planned. It's, I've already said yes to something. So let's start there. Let's start with yes. Let's start with what we really want to do with our lives. That's where the boundaries make the most sense. Because if you're setting a boundary in a line, if you're like putting a fence up in the middle of nowhere, it doesn't make sense. Right. Why is this fence here? But if you know that this fence is up because you have a beautiful, wonderful garden of a life that you are trying to protect, it is important. It's including, it has everything that you want to say yes to, your favorite flowers, maybe some hummingbird feeders, bath time, like whatever is on this side of the fence. If you know that you've said yes to this fence, this boundary makes sense. But if we just put a no, we're going to end up baking cookies for the bake sale whether or not we want to. Gluten-free. That's going to happen. So before I continue on my crusade of the courage to say no and the courage to say yes, I really think I've nailed my point home. And so for today, I really genuinely encourage you to think about the moments when it's been easy to say no, why that fence is in the middle of nowhere, and what's something yes you can say so that the boundary makes more sense. What are more of the things you want to say yes to? And ideally, you'd come up with a list. Ideally in your favorite journal or in your planner or on your phone, you're starting a list of all the things that you want to say yes to so that you can continue to give yourself more permission to say yes to those things. So, yeah. I know. I think this is brilliant, and I'm so excited for you to go practice this. So I encourage you, go say yes, go say no. May your yeses mean yes and your no's mean no, and you have all the courage in the world to stand behind your choices, because your life matters, and what you want to say yes to matters, and what you want to say no to matters. So before I go off on another tangent again, because I am passionate about this, we are going to talk tomorrow about facing your shadow. Yeah, we are. Yes, we are. And don't be afraid. You might be a little bit afraid. That's okay. But we're going to meet right back here. We'll talk about your shadow, and we're going to be just fine. So go say yes, go say no. I'll see you tomorrow.